the most important thing besides drinking water is movement and your diet. And I mean, if you want a longevity, it's so funny because everybody's looking for that silver bullet for longevity and health. And, it isn't in a pill. All it is movement, just move. That's the key to longevity, and eating clean, of course.
Welcome, my friends, to Water is Life, the podcast where we dive into the realms of science, spirit, and innovation to celebrate water's power to heal our bodies, our communities, and our planet. Our next guest is a true water luminary who spent over 35 years perfecting the alchemy of pure, oxygen-rich water. Ken Guoin is the founder and CEO of Ophora Water Technologies, an engineering and manufacturing visionary based in Santa Barbara. Beginning with a patented 100% organic chlorine-free pool system, he's paved the way to creating luxurious hyper-oxygenated water systems for homes, businesses, and beyond. And Ophora bottled water can be found online and on the shelves of health food stores like Erewhon. Ken's mission is simple yet profound: deliver crystal clear, nano-purified, highly therapeutic, oxygen-rich bottled and tap water without waste or chlorine to nourish health and protect the planet. With 4 U.S. patents behind him, a 14-stage purification process, and a water suffused with over 40 parts per million of stabilized, dissolved oxygen, Ken brings a blend of engineering rigor and holistic wellness into every drop. Ophora Water has earned 3 gold medals at the Berkeley Springs International Water Tasting and earned celebrity and athlete acclaim alike. Of course, you can find Ophora bottled water and their home water filtration and oxygenation systems at www.waterislife.shop and use the code WATERISLIFE for 15% off your order. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Ken Guoin. Hi, Ken. Welcome to the Water is Life podcast. We are absolutely thrilled to have you with us today, the leader and the founder of Ophora Water, the brilliance behind Nano oxygenated, hyper living, very structured crystalline water. I've been wanting to have a chat with you for a while because this is one of my favorite bottled waters in the world. So thank you for being with us. Welcome.
My pleasure, Isabel. Thank you.
So let's go ahead and get started at the beginning of your journey. How did your relationship with water in general start? Were there any aha moments when you first realized that there's a lot more to water than we typically realize in mainstream water science or mainstream awareness?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I've actually been involved with water as it relates to health and wellness since my 20s. So this is all I've ever done. I came into the water space in a roundabout way. I grew up in East Detroit, kind of not the greatest part of Detroit, and I wanted to go to college, joined the service to get my GI Bill, went to University of Michigan, which is a big engineering school, and met a lot of interesting people. But while I was in college, I actually saw an ad in the back of a magazine to be able to buy a hot tub kit, the old wooden hot tubs. So I called and bought one, and they said, well, if you buy 3, you can be a dealer. So I bought 3, and I got into the hot tub business. And so they were beautiful redwood tubs. We'd fill them with water, and they were out. We'd put them outside. People use them year round. I started buying them 3 at a time, then truckloads, then train loads. And I was the largest hot tub retailer in the world, actually, at one point. And so we were back in the very beginning using chlorine to sanitize these tubs. Nobody liked chlorine, so I started looking into alternatives. And I actually put together what I call the trifecta, and that was substituting chlorine for food-grade 35% hydrogen peroxide, as well as massive ozone UV sterilization and food-grade 34% hydrogen peroxide. And when I combined those, it was truly a organic sanitizer. The only byproduct of H2O2 hydrogen peroxide is oxygen. So lo and behold, everybody wanted that kind of water. And then people started asking if we could do the same thing with drinking water. And I'm really an inventor. So I patented the first chlorine-free swimming pool hot tub system and then the water. Four patents on this process. So yeah, we're all about oxygen. It's exciting because oxygen is so healing, and really your oxygen saturation is probably one of the best indicators of your overall health. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that. But anyway, I went from hot tubs into drinking water, into oxygen, filed these patents about 15 years ago, and been doing this ever since. And there's actually two ways that you can experience our oxygen, and that is drinking our water, which of course you've done, but also soaking in it. We also manufacture and sell hyperoxygenated hot tub systems.
Mm.
And we've actually discovered drinking the water, of course, is very powerful, but soaking in it is actually takes it over the top.
Mm.
So I'm 75 years old.
Wow. No
I
way.
soak every day. I drink a gallon of this water every day, and I have more energy than most of my staff. So, and that's really what hyperoxygenated water is all about. If anybody asks me, what does it do? It speeds up your mitochondria and it's very energizing. The kids call it organic Red Bull. So that's kind of how I got into this business. And it's my last hurrah is to really get this healing modality out to the world, particularly the
Absolutely.
soaking. People don't know too much about the soaking. Fortunately, we're the best-selling water, premium water in Air One, and they kind of put us on the map. I love Air One. They
Everyone's great.
we started with their first store, and we've been with them ever since. And they love us. We're their best-selling
I
water.
remember seeing practically a wall of Ophora in Erewhon, and I got so excited. I thought, you know what, if they're getting into Erewhon, just give it like 5 years and they'll be your average, Kroger or
Yeah,
Whole Foods.
but,
And I think you are in a lot of Whole Foods already, right?
no.
Oh, not
So
yet. Okay.
we really we're there's a lot of stores like Air One around the country. They're very high. Well, Air One stands by itself. So and there's a lot of stores like that. Like we have a market in Manhattan. It's like an Air One. So they're what we call ultra premium health food stores. And really the cool, what their business model is that people don't understand is you don't have to read labels at Air One. They do that for you. So if you're in Air One, and they actually came to us, they found us and they did their homework and, they pretty much determined we were the best thing out there in terms of purified water.
Well,
And
that's a bit of what I do at waterislife.shop. I've been an affiliate with you guys for about 5 years now, and with
yeah,
waterislife.shop, I just highly curate the best of the best when it comes to all things water,
yeah,
because of course there's a lot of swag out there on the market. There are a lot of misleading, marketing narratives out there on the market when it
yeah,
comes to healing
yeah,
water and this whole new paradigm of water science. And it takes a lot of conscientiousness and discernment to determine, okay, what is actually
right.
true, water wisdom, and what really helps facilitate the body's ability to heal itself. And in terms of bottled water, Ophora is absolutely at the top of what allows the body to heal itself. So one of the things that I've been most curious about since I became an affiliate with you guys, and there are actually two big questions that have been on my mind for the last 5 years since I first became familiar with y'all in 2020, is the first one is, how are you able to stabilize oxygen so consistently and make it shelf stable so it doesn't volatilize whatsoever? And does it, after hearing your story about importing the tubs, does it have something to do with hydrogen peroxide and H3O2 and the process that you use to create such vast amounts of really bioavailable oxygen in your water?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we don't use the H2O2 in our drinking water. We use it in our spa, our soaking tubs. But there's actually, in terms of how we do this, there's 4 patents on the process. It's a complex process. And I'm going to jump around a little bit because you need a little backstory. So as you've probably heard, water is called the universal solvent. And I don't know if you've ever heard that statement. So water is a universal solvent. And what that means is pure water in its purest form wants to absorb anything it comes in contact with. Water is such an incredible anomaly. But so water in its purest form, that's how the Grand Canyon was made over those millions and millions of years. So it wants to absorb whatever it comes in contact with. So the nano purification is the key component to integrating and stabilizing and binding our oxygen to the water molecule. So you really have to start with really pure water. And again, water in its purest form absorbs anything. Our water is so pure that when we add the oxygen component, it pulls the oxygen molecule right into the water. And it's stable and bound. What's interesting is you can pour a glass of our water, set it on your nightstand in the morning, it'll have the same amount of oxygen in it. So the
And how
purification.
long does this oxygen last? If you were to leave it sitting stagnant for, say, a few days or a week or a month?
For sure, days. I mean, we drink it. So for day, basically I can give you an example. So during COVID, we had a woman that bought a case of water for us. She called, she was buying a lot of water from us. Anyway, she discovered a case in her garage a few weeks ago. This is going back to COVID. And she said, "Is this water still good?" And I said, "Yeah, it is. But do me a favor, mail that case back. I'll send you 2 cases." And because we wanted to look at it, we actually hadn't tested water that was that old. Lo and behold, we opened it up. It was stable and bound to 40 ppm, which is near what we bottle at. We bottle between
Wow.
40 and 50, but it also tasted incredible. So, and that's again, the reason we bottle in glass is it's non-leaching. We couldn't bottle in plastic if we wanted to because the water's so pure. And so, yeah, the nano purification is the key.
So after nano purification, you guys do restructure the water. Because one of the things that I'm concerned about with like reverse osmosis or distillation or these methods that are actually long-term dehydrating to the body is that they lack mineralization and they lack structure. So one of the magical things that you guys do even before you oxygenate the water is you remineralize a new structure, correct?
We actually we nano purify it, then we hyperoxygenate it, and then we add the useful minerals into the water. And what we do better than anybody is the restructuring. Basically RO water, the water you were talking about, it's dead acidic water.
Absolutely.
So distilled water, nano purified water. A lot of people drink distilled water thinking it's good, and it's good to detox with, but you don't, it'll suck the calcium right out
The
of your
water
body.
is clean, but it's not healthy.
Yeah.
That's like saying,
Well,
I took a shower this morning, therefore I'm healthy, versus all of the things that actually make you healthy, like being
right.
well nourished and breathing properly. And that's really what you do with the water when you remineralize and you
Yeah.
oxygenate it.
So we bring it back to we restructure water better than anybody in the water improvement industry, and we use it's again a complex process, but we first tumble the water over rose quartz crystal. We have a big rose quartz crystal, depending on the size of the system, to kind of break up the water molecules, and then we vortex it. We have a patented vortex that's pretty unique. Water doesn't like to run in straight lines. It wants to be moving and it wants to be turning and spinning. And, water's alive when we bring it back to life, particularly with the vortexing. So first the rose quartz crystals, the vortexing, and then we run it through, we do another round of UV light with it. And that totally brings it back to life. And it's a key component of all of our systems is the restructuring.
If you're wondering how to get started with turning your drinking water into fresh, living, vibrant spring water, then you need a roadmap. Get 6 simple steps to follow that will set your hydration up for success. Discover 3 common mistakes folks make when trying to fix their water that just make it worse when you sign up for my Navigating the Waters e-course. It's a simple 7-day guide to what to drink, what not to drink, and why. You can find it at waterislife.academy. Go to waterislife.academy now to get your course in minutes and stay quenched for life. And is this something that's just a factor in your bottled water that you resell, or is this also something that's a part of the water systems, the water filters, the whole home water filters, the pool filters, all of these machines that you
We
provide?
have. So what's unique about Ophora, and there isn't another company like us, is not only do we manufacture and bottle this amazing water, we also design and manufacture systems to make the water. Because at the end of the day, really, there is no bottled water that's sustainable. You want to make your own water at the end of the day, or at least, partially make your own water. And so we have several systems all the way from under the counter to massive whole home systems that manufacture this water. And the hardest part we have is when people start making it, they start selling it. So, but that's okay. But yeah,
That's how you know you have a good
yeah,
product, you know? And honestly, water should be the most universally accessible thing to all people, no matter what, regardless of any socioeconomic status, regardless of any location. And that's why I love what you're doing, because so often clean water is not accessible to people.
we're,
And
we're
not only is clean water not accessible, but actually the opposite is true. People are poisoning themselves with their water. Most people don't realize that 80% of their daily toxin exposure comes from simply the water that they're drinking, the water that they're exposed to in their showering and in their bathing and in their cooking,
right.
and the water that their food has been grown with, the water that was used in the agricultural processes of growing their food. And one of the things that I find really interesting about that, or really, terrifying about that, honestly, is that women and children in particular have been shown in studies to be a lot more prone to absorbing these waterborne toxins, affecting fertility and cancer rates.
Oh, yeah.
So I would love to hear more about your perspective on the state of water as it is now, and why investing in something like an Ophora filter or Ophora bottled water is so much more effective even than going to Whole Foods and spending $100 a month on supplements, especially when it comes to women and children and babies who feel the impact of the water they drink far more so than they ever consciously realize what is actually happening at a molecular level when a woman takes a hot, steamy shower. Like, how serious is the risk when you feed your baby, baby food that's been reconstituted with tap water, or you bathe your baby in tap water when their skin is so incredibly permeable? Why is this so important?
Well, chlorine's a poison. It's a carcinogen. It was invented in World War One by Germany, and it's nasty. So, a couple things. You completely get the showering thing. So, 80% of the pollutants that you come in contact every day are from bathing and showering. So let's say, I took a shower this morning. I didn't take a shower, but let's say you took a shower this morning. That chlorine forms a shell on your skin and it interacts with your organic matter and it forms a very toxic chemical called chloramines. And chloramines are highly carcinogenic. All the skin cancer they're saying is from the sun that's BS. I mean, basically skin cancer is showing up on your bodies in place the sun doesn't shine. So chlorine's the issue. The other issue is water in its purest form absorbs anything it comes in contact with. People are drinking massive amounts of bottled water and plastic. That water is sitting in that plastic, literally sucking the toxins out of that plastic. So when you're drinking water that's been manufactured 6 months ago and on the shelf for a month or whatever, and it's just loaded with all the nasty stuff that's in plastic. Breast cancer is epidemic. Women store those toxins in their breast tissue, and that's a big problem. So women suffer more from bad water. I'm surprised you knew that as well than men do, because again, breast cancer is epidemic. What's causing it? Our medical board of advisors think a big component of it is drinking plastic bottled water. I've been the lone wolf for 30 years telling people you can't drink plastic bottled water. But it's the convenience factor. I'm amazed that people I know are conscious are drinking plastic bottled water, and then to add insult to injury, they're tossing it in the trash and it ends up in the landfill. It's got to stop. Cans aren't the answer because they're lined with plastic. So it's got to be glass. It's got to be
And I
glass.
think a lot of people don't realize when they choose plastic over tap water, a lot of plastic bottled waters are actually just bottled tap water, and there's very little difference between them. So,
Yeah.
speaking to the people who are oscillating between tap water or plastic bottled water, like, take us through the story and the history. How did tap water in the US, especially in places like California, where the water quality is so bad, and here where I live as well, in Tulum in the Yucatan, the water quality is so bad. There are no freshwater springs that I can harvest. I've been harvesting solely freshwater spring water since 2009. And, when that's not possible, we just have to find the next available solution. And in most places, especially in the US, the water has become so toxic with forever chemicals and pharmaceuticals and hormones. And it's really challenging for municipalities to effectively clean that out. So why does it make more sense for someone to invest in an Ophora water filter, structurer, remineralizer, oxygenator to effectively clean and balance their water and bring it closer to its natural spring quality state versus to simply buy bottled water, which might seem easier in the short term, but ultimately is a lot more expensive in the long term and has detrimental effects on their health with all the plastic and the fact that it's probably just tap water in a plastic bottle.
Yeah. So I tell people tap water is good for one thing, and that's putting out fires. Other than that, you know what? Your plants still like it. I see people, they're giving their pets tap water. They're killing their pets. They're shortening their lives for sure. The tap water has become so degraded and so denatured, it isn't even water anymore. It's just, and the most difficult in today's world, here's the good news. In today's world, we can remove anything from the source water via nanofiltration. We can remove any type of toxins as long as we know what it is we have to remove. So that's why, you start with our under the counter systems are complex because there's a lot going on. The first thing you have to do, we use a lot of organic coconut carbon. It's a wonderful filter media that 100% removes chlorine from the source water. Chlorine's probably the easiest thing to remove from the water. And so we start there and then go through the RO process and then the restructuring process. But
So your filters are able to remove even chloramine and fluoride and
100%,
atrazine.
they filter down to 0.0001
Wow.
microns. It's
Wow.
pretty,
Including microplastics and pharmaceuticals and
yeah.
all of
And
these
the
nasty.
pharmaceuticals are the toughest thing to remove, by
Mhm.
the way. So yeah, so it's complex. It takes many layers of filtration to do it. But we're building these systems
So
and
it's a sorry to interrupt you. I just want to get clear on the mechanism. So it's a carbon pre-filter and
yeah,
then a reverse osmosis and then a
yes.
structuring and then a remineralization
Yeah.
and then the
Well,
oxygenation.
well, the only thing you missed there was the UV sterilization. So
Okay.
the last thing that happens in all of our systems integrate UV sterilization. And
As the final
that's the
step in the
final,
process.
that's going to catch anything that might have slipped through a cyst or whatever. The great thing is, we're going to be seeing, we have, you've heard of boil alerts where we're having more and more. The San Diego's already had 2 of them this year. So what that means is you have to boil the water because something has slipped through. If you have one of our systems, you don't have to worry about boiling water. Our system's going to pull out whatever it is. So we're pretty proud of that. I mean, I've been doing this for 35 years now, and the great news is that I can take a cow pond and turn it into good water. So that's
You know what I really love about your systems is since 2014, when I first started teaching about, I've been studying water since 2009. I first started teaching about water in 2014, and I was teaching this system that I thought was like, okay, you know what? If we want to recreate what happens at a spring, Victor Schauberger was my original inspiration
yeah,
in the water world. He's my
of
hero of all time. I discovered
that's
him in
right.
2009, and I thought I have to devote my life to this. And he
His
said, comprehend and copy nature.
yeah, that's
And
yeah, that's
mhm.
right.
And I thought if we're going to copy what happens at a spring, whatever we do with whatever kind of water we have access to, we want to copy nature, then to the best of my ability of surmising, like, what does a spring actually do? It's filter, structure, balance, and energized. So the filtration is the hygiene. We need to stay clean. Water needs to stay clean. The structure is like the coherence, and we have a sense of culture and connectivity and friendships and family dynamics. And likewise, water also has the same, molecularly speaking. You want strong bonding. And also we need movement. We need exercise. The worst thing for our health is when we stay stagnant. Water also needs movement. It needs to spiral. It needs to vortex. It needs to flow. And then balance, I consider to be eating and breathing correctly. We need to eat right, just like water needs to absorb the right minerals and electrolytes, and we need to breathe right, like water needs to absorb the right ratios of dissolved gases. And that's so important. Dr. Tom Cowan said that one day it would be discovered that the dissolved gases within water are just as important to our health as the H2O, the water itself. If we stop breathing, we die. If water stops breathing, it dies. Therefore, dissolving, gases in water is enormously important. And then the last step is energizing or just exposing water to various frequencies. So what I love about what you're doing is that in the systems that you sell, these home machines, whether it's for your drinking water or for your pool water, it contains all of these different steps, which is so important. And I would love for you to speak to, because currently the only other system on the market whatsoever that does anything even remotely similar is the Spring Aqua, which filters, structures, remineralizes, and suffuses the water with molecular hydrogen. So can you compare and contrast the benefits of suffusing water with oxygen versus hydrogen? And what are the effects on the body? How does that affect your health differently?
Yeah. Well, so both hydrogen's terrific, and of course, oxygen, we're all about oxygen. So as I mentioned earlier, your oxygen saturation is a really good indicator of your overall health. Most disease, I'm sure you're aware, is hypoxic oxygen level, particularly cancer. Right now, you and I are breathing 21% oxygen, rest is pretty much nitrogen, other inert gases. But anything above 95% saturation, you're fairly healthy, and every point above that is significant. I run 99 to 100% all the time, and that's at my age, that's unheard of. That's a young athlete. But I soak in this water every day, and I drink it every day. And as you said, the most important thing besides drinking water is movement and your diet. And I mean, if you want a longevity, it's so funny because everybody's looking for that silver bullet for longevity and health. And, it isn't in a pill. All it is movement, just move.
Mhm.
That's the key to longevity, and eating clean, of course. And you really need all three. I mean, I see people, particularly kids, it's horrifying, that are drinking nothing but energy drinks. What do you think's going to happen to them down the road? I mean, water is how you cleanse your body, and people just aren't drinking.
And water is how you cleanse your body, but also movement is how you hydrate your body. I don't think enough people realize that
No,
stagnation is dehydrating, and that drinking water only begins the hydration process, but
right.
moving actually allows the water to seep into your cells
So
more
important.
deeply. And if you're staying stagnant, if water is stagnant, it loses its structure, it loses its vitality. And we, as bodies of water, if we stay stagnant, we lose our vitality and our level of hydration, because the fascia isn't able to deliver water
Yeah.
into our cells. And so one important aspect of hydration, of course, is drinking bioavailable water, which I would love for you to speak to why Ophora is so much more bioavailable. But also, like, we have to be moving in order to absorb that water. And
Right.
you get the water moving before you even put it in a bottle so that we can absorb it more.
Right, exactly. And so in terms of hydrogen, hydrogen is really unstable. Most of the times when we test hydrogen water, there's very little or no hydrogen in it. I'm not a keen fan of the devices you can make hydrogen with, only because they're going to end up in a landfill. I love hydrogen. I take it every day. I take tablets. I think it's the best way to uptake hydrogen. Of course, with Ophora Water, so I take it. I do it every morning, part of my ritual. But oxygen is unstable, but hydrogen is very unstable. It's hard to package it where you're actually getting much hydrogen when you drink that water. So
Yeah.
my
I feel like
feeling,
the packaged hydrogen options are horrible because it volatilizes so quickly, and 99% of the hydrogen generators out there, they use electrolysis, they destabilize the water's structure, they use horrible quality metals that just,
yeah,
electrolyze heavy metals into the water. There's only maybe one or two hydrogen generators on the market that are even worth their salt whatsoever. And then, as you said, even once you do that, the hydrogen is incredibly unstable. It volatilizes really quickly. It's even more unstable than oxygen. So what you're
right.
doing is like much more stable in terms of creating something that can preserve the gases inside of it.
Right. So, hydrogen is a great antioxidant. I'm a believer in it. I just think in terms of your go-to drinking water, oxygen's the best, only because, our it you know, it's all about your oxygen saturation. If you're below 95%, you got some bad stuff going on in your body, and it will eventually probably kill you. So it's really important. So movement and drinking our water and eating clean that's the recipe for sure. Yeah.
And bathing in it too, which is so
Eh,
unique that you guys
yeah.
are able to create that because there's not a single hydrogen generator on the market that is whole home where you can actually bathe in the water, but you can do a whole home Ophora system and actually bathe
Yeah.
in hyperoxygenated water. And I remember when I first discovered you guys and I hopped on a call with Tim, and he said that you guys had found that bathing in Ophora water, this astounded me, and I'm really curious how this works, that bathing in Ophora water, you can actually raise your phase angle. Now, that's typically a metric that is really slow to raise. Anyone
Yeah.
who's been listening to this podcast for a while has probably heard me talk about phase angle, in that it's the measurement that we use to determine a person's level of hydration. And it's kind of on a 1-to-1 ratio with your level of hydroelectricity, your mana, your prana, your chi, how much electricity, how much charge, and how much water your cells can actually transmit across the cell membrane and detoxifying used water and then hydrating in with new water. And so that usually, as I said, is a very slow metric to change. But when people bathe in Ophora water,
Yeah.
their phase angle raises. Can you tell us about that? Friends, when you consider the term harnessing quantum energy, does it sound like some far off sci fi fantasy? Well, it's real. It's available now, and it's one of the most powerful ways to bring your body water back into resonance with your original primal blueprint, your highest vibrational potential in the morphogenic field. To understand what that means, let's zoom out for a second. So, Dr. David Hawkins, renowned consciousness researcher, developed a logarithmic scale of consciousness showing how states like love and joy actually act as energetic attractors, literally drawing in events, people, and experiences that match those vibrations. Enlightenment, measured between 700 to 1,000 on the Hawkins scale of vibration, is the highest level. Now, imagine water that's calibrated at over 2,000 on that scale. That's what we're talking about when you charge your food and water in the quantum block, infinity block, travel block, or the quantum water bottle, or when you wear the quantum capsule necklace. These devices not only balance your energy, boost your clarity and performance, and protect you from the dehydrating effects of EMFs, but also help you to shift into a more present, energized, and coherent state of being. And now, with the Quantum Upgrade subscription, you can bathe your home, phone, car, business, even your pets in a constant stream of quantum energy. You just set your preferred frequency range between 500 to 900 and get a daily 30-minute booster up to 1200, all for just $35 a month with discounts when you bundle. Personally, I've subscribed for myself, my home, my business, my cat, and I noticed the effects from day one: deeper focus, more stamina, better mood, a sense of calm amidst stress, and my personal favorite effect, more inspired, soul-led ideas and inspiration. Now, look, I get it. The word quantum gets thrown around a lot. And as a natural skeptic and science minded person, I'm very wary of generalized, fluffy, woo woo energy kind of talk. But I genuinely respect this company's scientific rigor in testing and researching. They partner with doctors and universities for double blind, placebo controlled, randomized studies. These are the gold standard science. that prove that these tools work. Better blood flow, lower toxic load, improved HRV and nervous system resilience, and over 99% protection for harmful EMFs like 3G, 4G, 5G, and Wi-Fi. These tools are IGEF certified, and they're the real deal for returning your drinking water and your biowater to a natural, coherent state as a grounded, everyday reality. If you're ready to invest in this up-leveled, coherent quantum experience of life, head over to waterislife.shop and search Quantum. It's time to feel what it means to truly live in alignment with your highest frequency.
That is true. It's amazing. So I have a holistic doctor in LA, and she checks my phase angle, and it's off the hook. I mean, I don't shower at home, and I don't bathe. I soak every day, which is so you've never. I really wanted to get you out here so you can experience this, because it's hard. It's hard to explain. And what's interesting is when you soak. So in 20 minutes, your body will absorb all the oxygen it can hold. It'll last in your body for 14 hours when you're soaking in one of our tubs.
Wow.
So first of all, you've never soaked, and nobody has ever soaked in a body of water this clean. The water in our tubs is the same water as our drinking water. You could sit in our tub and drink the water. It's nano pure, pH balanced, and hyperoxygenated to 32 ppm. So it amps up your mitochondria, it increases your phase angle. I mean, it's an incredible. I don't know if you've seen some of the photos that in terms of healing. I'm a big hiker. I've taken some pretty gnarly falls, but there's some pictures floating around. I mean, in terms of wound healing, it's insanely quick and effective. So I've had my whole I'll have to send, if you haven't seen those pictures, I'll send them to you. They're pretty amazing. But in 5 days, the healing is just amazing. So yeah, my whole MO is to get this water, particularly the soaking modality, out to the world, because it is such a game changer for overall health. And it's the magic bullet. It's what people are looking for. It's the closest thing to the fountain of youth you'll ever find, especially when you combine it with eating clean and the movement thing. And people, even people who think they're moving enough, aren't moving enough.
Yeah.
So
I love that you said the fountain of youth, because that's
yeah.
really what living, breathing water is. And that's what you have. It's a water that's alive and it's breathing. And, there's a reason it's the fountain of youth and not the mushroom of youth or the, ray of light of youth or these things. It really is. It's a fountain. It has to do with the type of water that we drink and that we're made of, because we're 70% water by volume, but we're 99.9% water molecularly. And so there's nothing more important than the water that we're made of, the water that we're consuming, and the water that we're absorbing and bathing in. And it affects everything from the cellular level to the tissue level to the neurochemical level and everything in between. And I know that you guys have worked with Dr. Jeff McCombs for a while, and he's done a lot of research with you guys, and he specifically studied the level of oxygen in the tissues of people who use Ophora water. Can you share a little bit about what those studies have revealed in terms of the actual impact of drinking and bathing in the water?
Well, you're hydrating. So for the first time, you're truly hydrating on a cellular level with our water. And Jeff proved that. The water today, again, is so denatured and devitalized, it can't penetrate your cells. And the other interesting thing is, I drink, people always remark, they'll drink a half a gallon of water and they're not like running to the bathroom to pee, because your body's absorbing it. Your body's hungry for water on a cellular level. I mean, your brain is the size of an acorn if you take all the water out of it. So I tell people, a lot of people, they can relate to the brain fog, especially if you haven't drank any water for, let's say, somehow or some way you were stuck without water for 10, 12 hours. I mean, you get a headache right away. I mean, when you drink water, the first place it goes is your brain. Our bodies are so unique and so knowing, it's just amazing. But hydrating at a cellular level is a big deal. And in a lot of cases, if you're drinking water that's just fat with pollutants and various chemicals, it's just not getting through. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
And it makes the biggest difference. Go ahead.
And they, again, the big problem is, I run into people all the time. They go, I don't drink water. I don't like water. I'm going, I mean, I can't even believe it. But yeah, there's people that don't drink water. They just drink whatever. It's kind of funny, but if you think about it, we're the only species on the planet that drink other stuff besides water. I mean, and if you go back in time, like the days of Christ, I mean, what were they drinking? They were drinking water or wine, I guess.
Water, milk, and wine. That's about it.
That was it. So, yeah. So we just got ourselves in a big mess today with the water, and it's a global issue. So it's not. It's just not where you live or where I live, but I'm sure we have as bad or worse water than you do there. It's just horrible over here.
Oh,
There's
it's
density.
always awful here.
There's so many people on the coast. It's the density. So yeah, but
Yeah. And I think people don't realize that this is kind of really a root cause issue, that people spend so much time thinking about the food that they're eating when the reality is, if you're not well hydrated, you can't even absorb the nutrients that you're eating through your food, because it's the osmotic flow of water in and out of the cells that carries all of the nutrients of what you eat. So we'll spend, so much money on supplementation and high quality organic food without realizing that if you're well hydrated, your body can detox anything that you eat far more easily, and it's cheaper to get well hydrated with high quality water than it is to buy all organic food.
for
And
sure.
if you're well hydrated and that water is actually bioavailable because it's structured and it's mineralized, then you don't have to spend as much in supplements, because you have to take so many more supplements if you're not hydrated to get the same amount into your cells, versus if you're hydrated, then that water is actually bringing across the nutrients that your cells need. And I think what people really need to understand and realize is that health is not just the absence of being sick.
Right.
Health is actually an infinite metric where there's no ceiling, that you can just keep feeling better and getting younger, younger and younger. Like, you're a perfect example of that. You said you're 75 years old. I'm shocked. And it's like, there are people who find my work with water because they are in need of healing, and they begin to recognize that water is nature's primary medicine, and it is actually the water within themselves that allows them to heal. And I feel like that's a really important place to start, of like, how can water be healing and medicinal and therapeutic and beautiful in these different ways? And then the other level is like, I already feel good. Why would I need to improve my hydration? And what difference could that make? So obviously, without making any medical claims whatsoever, but just sharing the stories that you've seen and heard and what you've personally witnessed, I would love to hear the most compelling or beautiful things that you've come across in your years of this work, where either someone has been in the process of healing, or they've been well and they've become better. Like, what is the most common benefits that people can expect from drinking this water? And then what are some of the really incredible stories that have happened from drinking this water or bathing in it?
Well, I mean, you nailed it when you said, I mean, if you think about all the money that people spend on supplements and that women spend on face creams, and
Okay.
you've got incredible skin, and
Thank
I've
you.
noticed, I can't help but notice, but I mean, think about it.
Hydration.
I mean, if you didn't use, women spend fortune, and even guys, on the various face creams and whatever they're putting on their face, and water. It's water. And I mean, I can look at you and see how well hydrated you are. So, but
And I'm 49 years old. Who would have known?
yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. Okay. I know you're kidding. But anyway, yeah, the thing that we notice most, because people are always asking me, what does this water do for you? And, I'll ship them a case of water and I'll tell, you drink this case of water. First of all, whatever else you're drinking, try to not drink that this week, alcohol, coffee, whatever, and just drink this water. And I can't tell you, I mean, very rarely do I hear anything other than, I can't tell you how much better I look and how much better I feel. and how much more energy I have. And that's all pretty cool stuff to hear. And, we hear about, our water is expensive. It's expensive to manufacture, and it is in glass. But come on, I mean, people go into Starbucks and I don't know, they get a mocha and whatever, and it's like $8, or a cocktail that's 20. And so, no, it's just a matter of priorities. And again, drinking the water is important, but when you're soaking in it like I am every day, it's just a game changer for health in a very large way. I mean, usually people my age are taking naps during the day or whatever. And I mean, I'm up at 5 in the morning and I'm going usually till 10 or 11 at night, and I love the energy I have. And I know it's attributed to the movement. Movement's a religion to me. And of course, drinking our water and soaking it, I have the opportunity to soak in it every day, which is a huge benefit. And hopefully you'll get over to here, be able to try it yourself. But yeah, it's just, it's the most inexpensive way to amp up your health in a big fashion quickly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's really the biggest part of my mission as a water steward and a water ambassador, is helping people realize that whether we're talking about our physical health and our vitality and our level of energy and longevity, for which people spend so much money with their healthcare providers and their supplements and all that, or we're talking about beauty and youthfulness and glowing skin and healthy hair, for which people, women especially, spend so much money in all of our, our creams and our treatments and whatnot. Or we're talking about our spiritual connectivity and our level of consciousness and our perception of the divine and our ability to tune into our inner voice and our intuition. All of these things ultimately are reflections of our level of hydration, first and foremost, because we are bodies of water before we are anything else. And every expression of our being is an emanation of our water. Our life is a reflection of our inner waters, because water is the primary mirror and the ultimate reflector of our inner being. And so if we stop looking externally to all of these superficial factors to fix all of these levels of our experience of life, and we start just centering the primacy of water as the first and foremost factor in determining the quality of all of these other expressions of our being, not only do we save a ton of money, even if we're spending a ton of money on our hydration, it's like it evens out and then saves money over the long term, because we feel better, we're healthier, we're younger, we look better, we have more energy, we're more connected to source, we have a deeper prayer life. When you go into meditation, you go deeper. All of these things are just, it's like the root of all of them. Water really is the core and the essence of life in general. It's the source of life. It's the destiny of life. And when we put that at the center of our lives, everything else becomes simpler and cheaper.
Yeah, I really appreciate the work you're doing, because there's just not this, the message needs to get out there, and there's not enough people talking about it.
Yeah.
You go to the water aisle in Whole Foods and look at all that water that's on the shelves. But that water is all packed, it's all bottled by co-packers. So basically, there's a big RO machine running in a factory, and they're just switching bottles. So it's all the same water. It's all exactly the same water, and it's all primarily, most co-packers don't bottle in glass. It's all plastic. So yeah, I mean, it's important to get this message out.
And people think that they're just drinking to satisfy thirst, and the same reason they think they just eat to satisfy hunger. And it's like, no, the water that you drink becomes your blood within 5 minutes. And what you're making your blood of is the most sacred communion that there is. And we're designed to be making our blood from the blood of Mother Earth in a very divine dance of connection and communication. And when we don't have access to that, doesn't mean that the sanctity of hydration is any less. Just because we're buying it from a store, it doesn't mean that hydration isn't a prayer and a communion and a level of sanctity that we want to bring as close as possible to nature. And that's why I really love what you're doing, is because you're making the sanctity of communion with the blood of Mother Earth as accessible as possible, considering that we're starting with municipal tap water, considering that we're going into Erewhon to buy it, considering that, we have to have a plumber come and install this in our house. But it's like, you know what? Once this is installed, it's a one-time thing, and then you're drinking this water for the rest of your life. And that is powerful.
Absolutely, for sure. It's exciting work that we're doing, and that's my whole MO in life is getting people to understand everything we're talking about here today, because people don't get it. Most people don't get it. It's the 80-20 rule. 20% of the people get it. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. Okay, so as we start wrapping up today, I've loved this conversation. It's made me even more excited to come to Santa Barbara, experience this for myself. I know there's also a spot out in San Diego. I was there a few months ago and I almost went and I didn't have the opportunity, but the next time I go, I'm really excited to get to bathe in some of this beautiful
Yeah.
water. And, one of the things in the last, 15, 16 years that I've been studying water that has just continue to grow stronger and stronger is the recognition that the more I dive into the science of water, the more it leads me into spirituality. And the more I dive into the spirituality of water, the more it leads me into the science. And that I genuinely feel like water is the place where spirit and science meet more fully than any other element or subject on the planet. And so you've been in water for a really long time. I have a couple of questions for you as we wrap up. What do you think is water's relationship to consciousness or to source? How does water connect us to something greater than ourselves? Why is hydration not only physical, but also spiritual?
Well, water is alive. It's every bit as alive as you and I and the plants and the trees, and most people don't get that. It's our life source, and it's such a blessing. You look at this whole blue planet, and, it's a big universe out there. We haven't found anything quite like this anywhere else at this juncture, but water is alive. It's healing. You have to hold it in reverence, and it's just, you know, it's what makes us who we are. And I just can't say enough about that. So most people, a lot of people don't drink enough water or drink water, period, but they're not drinking the right kind of water. And the material that you're drinking the water out of is really important. And that's been my message for 35 years is you've got to drink water. You can't drink out of plastic. And water needs to be, yeah, it wants to vortex, it wants to run in circles. It needs movement and it's not getting it. And there's a lot of disrespect toward water that needs to be changed. And we need people to understand that it is alive and it is life-giving and we won't survive. You can't survive very long without it. So, yeah.
And imagine a world in which all of that was rectified. Imagine a world in which humanity truly listened to water, learned from water, was reverent to water's needs and the various aspects of living, balanced, restructured, oxygenated water. What would the world look like then in terms of energy production, consciousness, health, spirituality, economics, agriculture? What kind of world could we create when we partner with water as the source rather than just a commodified resource? What is the more beautiful world that we know is possible in a water-informed future?
Yeah, well, it's gonna help our consciousness, that's for sure. So that's really the bottom line. So yeah.
Infinitely help our consciousness in every way.
Yeah.
Last question. I ask this to all of my guests, and it's fundamentally unanswerable, so don't feel any pressure to have an answer to this. But if you could take your best guess or your best stab in the dark based on the last, 50 years of working with water, what would you say? What is water? What is water?
Well, it's the life source. I mean, it's everything. You can live without food for a long time. You can't live without water very long. It's our life source energy. And the kind of water we drink is really important. The amount of water we drink is really important. And holding a reference or saying a prayer while you're drinking the water is really important. It pulls us closer to God. And yeah, it's, the work that I'm doing, I'm just so happy to be doing it because I think there's just a big disconnect between the general population and what water really is and what it can really do. And there's just so much money wasted on trying to be youthful and, and trim and fit and it really comes down to water, movement, and food, and that's the holy grail. So, yeah, and they all belong together, and they all work together. You really need them all. So,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Well, we're totally on the same page about that.
Yeah.
And anyone who's been listening this far, thank you for your time and attention. Obviously, you're also on the same page about all of that, and you recognize the importance of water because it is the source of life. Now, if you want to get access to Ophora bottled water, you can find it at waterislife.shop. They have a lot of different options. It's all in glass bottles. So that's under the bottled section. And you'll find links as well to the filters, the whole home systems, the pool systems there at waterislife.shop. And if you want to get in touch with Ken directly and keep up with what he's up to, Ken, where can people find you and keep tabs on all the beautiful things that you're doing?
Yeah, just ophorawater.com. So I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. I'm here every day and I love what I do. So I'm not going anywhere.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate your time. It was fun chatting with you. Nothing makes me happier than connecting with other water-inspired beings who get it and who are turned on by the source of life. And, everyone has their unique medicine to bring to this field, but all of us really are in a field that I personally feel is the forefront of every single, important advancement in humanity. Water has to be the forefront of all of it. And what you're doing with Ophora is genuinely a unique advancement in that no one else is doing something similar to this. I really thank you so much for everything that you've done, what you've created, what you're bringing to humanity. It's such a gift and it's such a medicine.
Thank you. And thank you for everything you do. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing you over here someday soon.
Definitely. I'll be reaching out about that the next time I'm in the States. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. Thank you.
Have a beautiful day. Be well and be hydrated. Friends, if you're loving what you're learning on the podcast and you want to dive deeper, check out the courses, webinars, workbooks, and private coaching available at waterislife.academy. These are on-demand, lifetime access programs where we dive into brand new concepts not taught here on the podcast. And if you're ready to optimize your water to be a healthy wellspring of hydration, discover the water alchemy tools that are available at waterislife.shop. And let's connect on Instagram @JenIsabelFriend. I look forward to seeing you there. Stay hydrated and be well.